Clara's Monday had been a soggy biscuit of misery, until a stranger in a polka-dot raincoat shoved a battered copy of Middlemarch into her hands outside Foyle's. "You look like a woman who needs a proper book," woman declared, vanishing into Charing Cross Road's drizzle before Clara could protest. 60, grief still clung like stale perfume, but this oddball gesture cracked something open. That evening, she lugged Novel to her local bookshop swap night, where spines cracked louder than hearts. Vibes. Clara's Monday had been a soggy biscuit of a day, damp, crumbling, impossible to salvage. Rain drummed against her window like an impatient neighbor, and her hands fumbled with old Novel on her coffee table, its spine cracked from years of love. Middlemarch had been his favorite. Now, its pages smelled of dust and memories she wasn't ready to exhume. But grief, she'd learned, was a clumsy dance partner. It stepped on her toes when she least expected it, left her wobbling in socks on a polished floor. That's why she dragged herself to bookshop on Chiswick High Road, where a handwritten sign promised community book swap and tea, and new faces welcome. Vibes were warm, if slightly chaotic, like a well-loved jumper with threads loose seams. She hesitated door, fingers brushing Novel in her bag, his copy, tucked away like a secret. What if no one understood? What if she was just another silver-haired shadow in a room full of stories? Her deepest fear wasn't being alone, it was becoming irrelevant, a bookmark left between pages no one would ever turn to again. Then a woman with wild grey curls and a keep calm and read on tote bumped into her, spilling chamomile down her sleeve. Oops. Clumsy as a toddler in wellies, woman laughed, dabbing Clara's arm with a napkin. No pity, just easy camaraderie. By evening's end, Clara's Novel sat on swap table beside a dog-eared Persuasion and a thriller with a coffee ring stain. Someone would take it. Someone would give it new life. And maybe, just maybe, she could too. London streets glistened under amber lamps as she walked home, her step lighter. Clara's Monday had been a soggy biscuit of drizzle and misplaced keys, but Thursday brought an unexpected twist. While ducking into a second-hand bookshop to escape another downpour, she noticed a flyer for something called Last Chapter Club, its edges curled with age-like Novel tucked under her arm, a battered copy of Middlemarch her late husband had gifted her decades ago. Spine cracked, pages yellowed, it had become less a book and more a silent companion. Curiosity nudged her toward event that evening. Inside, mismatched chairs formed a loose circle, occupied by faces ranging from 40-somethings to a spry nonagenarian who introduced herself as Marjorie, club's founder. "We read to remember, but we meet to move forward," Marjorie said, handing creator a cup of tea that smelled faintly of bergamot and hope. No one asked about her loss outright. Instead, they passed dog-eared paperbacks like batons in a relay, each title carrying its own history. A community book swap, they called it, stories traded like secrets, grief softened by shared narratives. Woman fumbled her first attempt to discuss Middlemarch, voice wavering like a novice cyclist on cobblestones. But Marjorie caught her with a wink. "Darling, even Eliot's heroines tripped on their petticoats," and room exhaled into laughter. Week after week, creator returned, discovering that analyzing fictional heartaches made her own less jagged. She learned to underline passages without guilt, scribbling notes in margins as if conversing with ghosts. By summer, she'd become one recommending titles, her once quiet observations now peppered with dry wit that left group grinning. When shop hosted an author talk, woman arrived early, arranging chairs with a confidence that surprised her. That night, she carried Middlemarch again, but this time, it rested atop a stack of fresh paperbacks, ready for someone else to borrow. Novel was no longer just a relic of love lost, it had become a bridge to love rediscovered, page by page, in company of others who understood that some stories never truly end. London's rain still fell, but Clara hardly noticed. She was too busy turning pages, and turning corners. Clara's Monday had been a soggy biscuit of misplaced keys and a stubborn umbrella that refused to open, but Tuesday arrived with an unexpected twist, a flyer for Turn Page, a book club meeting above a musty Camden bookshop. Grief had settled into her bones like London fog, thick and unshakable, but curiosity nudged her forward. 60 years of life had taught her that misery loved company, but so did stories. She arrived early, clutching a dog-eared copy of Middlemarch, its spine cracked from years of companionship. Inside, mismatched chairs circled a table piled with paperbacks, their covers whispering promises of escape. A woman in a chunky-knit cardigan waved her over, and woman fought urge to bolt. What if she was too old for this? Too set in her ways? To her? But then she spotted it, a community book swap box in corner, overflowing with well-loved titles. Something about strangers leaving pieces of themselves behind made her stay. Meetings became her anchor. She devoured memoirs, dissected mysteries, even giggled over a raunchy historical novel that made her cheeks flush. One evening, she brought a tattered copy of To Lighthouse, its margin scribbled with her late husband's notes. Passing it to swap box felt like shedding armor. Next week, it was gone, but in its place, someone had left Persuasion, with a sticky note, for woman who knows waiting isn't weakness. Creator wasn't fixed. Some days, grief still shouldered its way in, uninvited. But between doggedly pushing through rush-hour crowds to make meetings and arguing over unreliable narrators with a retired librarian, she found a rhythm. Stories didn't erase loss, but they built bridges between past and present, solitude and solidarity. By summer, she'd organized a bookshop event, reading aloud from Middlemarch beneath twinkly fairy lights. Strangers leaned in, their faces flickering with recognition. Later, nursing peppermint tea, Clara realized old novel in her bag wasn't just a book anymore. It was a flag planted in stubborn, hopeful ground, proof that even 60, life had more chapters left. Clara's Monday had been a soggy biscuit of drizzle and drear, but by Thursday, spine of that old novel in her bag felt like a secret weapon. Not just any book, her late husband's dog-eared copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, margin scribbled with his terrible jokes. For months, grief had pressed her into silence, but tonight, damp London streets couldn't dampen her resolve. Community book swap Primrose Pages was packed, vibes more awkward than a first date. Creator clutched her novel, heart hammering. This wasn't just about trading paperbacks. She'd scribbled her own notes between her husbands, turning margins into a conversation across time. Gutsy? Maybe. Bonkers? Definitely. But when organizer announced an open MIC for stories behind books, 60 years of politeness evaporated. She stepped up, knees creaking louder than floorboards. A skeptic in cat-eye glasses, some millennial who'd spent evenings side-eyeing Grandma Lit, snorted into her chai. She ignored her, flipped open novel, and read her husband's margin nonsense first. Atticus Finch needs a pint. And a nap. Crowd chuckled. Then she shared her own editions, raw and wobbler-voiced, miss you in every chapter. Even sad ones. Silence. Then applause. Cat-eye girl's jaw dropped. Someone yelled, "Encore!" Clara, face hotter than a scone fresh from oven, fumbled and nearly dropped book. Tiny goof, big laughs. By time she sat down, 3 strangers had pressed tissues into her palm, and Skeptic was snapping a photo. That's going viral, she muttered, grudging respect in her tone. Later, flipping through her swap book, a memoir about dancing 60, Clara grinned. Spine cracked, pages smelled like hope. She'd done it. Not just shared grief, but spun it into something alive. Across room, Cat-Eye Girl was now clutching Mockingbird, tracing those inked margins like they held secrets. Clara walked home, rain now a soft hush against cobblestones. For first time in months, London didn't feel too big, too loud. Just right. I found my voice, she thought. And maybe, just maybe, it had been hiding between pages all along. Clara's Monday had been a soggy biscuit of grief, but by Thursday, she'd turned it into something sturdy, a bookshelf, maybe, or a ladder. That dog-eared novel she'd clutched like a life raft after losing James? Now it sat center stage, her book club's community swap, its spine cracked with love, pages whispering secrets to strangers. 60 wasn't too late to rewrite an ending. London's drizzle couldn't dampen vibes. Primrose Hill Bookshop, where Clara's crew, a ragtag band of grievers, dreamers, and one woman who alphabetized her tea bags, gathered monthly. No sad widow tropes here. Just mismatched mugs, sticky buns, and stories that stuck like good glue. Clara guided new members with a nudge, not a shove, her odd habit of sniffing book pages owed a plot twist. She called it breaking tension like a shared joke. By spring, their swap pile had birthed a lending library in a disused phone booth. Dogeared mysteries, self-help with underlines like battle scars, each carried whispers of someone's before. Clara's old novel? Last seen tucked under a young nurse's arm, its margins now holding fresh ink. Grief hadn't vanished. But it had company. Turn your page, a start a shelf, a swap, a someday. Now.